If you aspire to be a head coach, you aspire to be an athletic administrator, you need to understand the rules and you need to understand how to adjudicate the rules. And I think the two best resources that I would point to are the TEA UIL side-by-side resource, and then also the individual sport manual that you have for the sports that you're coaching in. I always recommended to our coaches there at Sci-Fair that they read both of those, no matter their position, on a yearly basis.
Hello everyone, this is Glenn West, Assistant Executive Director of THSCA. I want to invite you to make plans for our regional meeting and POI meetings. Our regional meeting is on February the 1st, the first Saturday in February. A very important meeting, and be looking for that. It'll be all over the state. As far as the POI meetings, that meeting should start happening sometime in the month of January. The first meetings will be taking place actually the second or third week in January. A POI meeting is not a regional meeting. The POI meeting is actually a meeting with your power of influence coaches on your staff to hear real issues that are happening within your region, and also information that can go a little deeper than what happens at the regional meeting, as we are preparing for that great meeting on February the 1st. I want to also make sure you know that the Leadership Summit is on February 24th in Arlington. It's at Esports Stadium. We look forward to seeing everybody there. And other than that, love to see you. Thank you so much for your support of THSCA, and we look forward to spending the spring together. Thank you.
Hey coaches, did you know we're now offering shows for all sports? That's right, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, we've got you covered. If you're looking for a way to showcase your program, promote your players, and highlight the amazing things happening with your team, our coaches shows are the perfect solution. Plus, our business model lets you or your booster club raise money while building excitement and support for your program. Don't miss the opportunity to take your team's story to the next level. Find out how you can get your very own coaches show. Reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620 today. That's 713-269-4620, because every team deserves the spotlight.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Coach's Call. I'm Chris Doelle, and I always have so many great subjects, but this the topics covered today, I think, are going to be some of the most interesting. Joe Martin, the Executive Director of the Texas High School Coaches Association, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, and I'm going to let you introduce our mutual friend and take it away. I want to hear this conversation.
All right, Chris, thanks. Good afternoon, and man, really excited about talking about UIL today with Coach Zepeda, Ray Zepeda, the athletic director at UIL. And Chris, thanks for putting this together. And Ray, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. Certainly appreciate it.
We're gonna jump right into this with just a little introduction about UIL. And the UIL plays a large part in athletics in Texas, yet there's a misunderstanding sometimes, and a lot of times, amongst parents, players, coaches, and even athletic directors on exactly who is the UIL. I think people need to be informed about the UIL, especially ahead of the upcoming legislative session. And really the reason for having this podcast episode today is we want to examine the specific role of some of the rules governing athletics. And, hats off to you, Ray, for the job that you've done since you've joined UIL as the athletic director, and the work that you and your team have done has been phenomenal. And the relationship that you have built with THSCA, our board, and our coaches across the state, you have a ton of respect from our association and our coaches because of who you are. I think it's very important that athletic director position is someone that's been in our shoes, that's been in our coaches' shoes, and you've done that. And a lot of respect for who you were prior to coming to UIL and the job you did at Sci-Fair and other places, but what you're doing today is remarkable. You and your team have been fantastic. So thank you for joining us today. And we're going to jump right into it and talk about history and purpose. If you don't mind letting our audience know who you are, where you came from, and then what is your current role at UIL?
Well, Joe, I certainly appreciate your comments because I've said to your board many, many times that I really cannot separate myself from being an active member of THSCA for now over 3 decades. I coached for over 20 years, coached in about every different situation that you could possibly have. I've coached in an urban area, in the greater Houston area. I've coached in a rural area. I've been associated with the biggest of the big school districts, suburban districts that are well resourced, and I've coached some places where we really had to work for everything that we had. And so I've been extremely fortunate to have a wide variety of circumstances, but I hope that what we do every day here at the UIL is reflect the heart of coaching and being a coach. And I was a coach for 20 years. I've been involved with athletic administration for another 19, 20 years. Of course, there was some overlap there between my last few coaching stops where I had some administrative duties. But we carry those experiences into our role here at the UIL. I think in a general manner, when you describe what my job here as the athletic director, I don't really see it as that much different from the role of THSCA. The THSCA has always had the motto of helping coaches to help kids. I think our job here at the UIL is to help coaches so that they can actually go and be empowered to help kids. And I think that we're in a unique position of being able to be very helpful to coaches, to listen to the problems that coaches and athletic administrators and communities and school districts are having, and then trying to align the rules in such a way to make the situation where they can be maximally effective in educating kids. What does that mean then as far as my job? As an athletic director here, you talked about some of the misconception about the job. I think sometimes people think to our credit and our detriment that we're probably in control of more things than we typically are. But primarily, my job is to administer all of the athletic programs here at the UIL, to specifically plan, supervise, and really evaluate the way that we're approaching interscholastic athletics here in the state of Texas, making sure that our championship events are special events for kids, coaches, and communities, trying to be a resource for member schools and coaches to help explain the rules. You can't follow the rules if you don't understand them. Obviously, you mentioned our staff. I'm super proud of our staff of 8 people. I think that we're working together very, very well. And the thing I'm most proud of, I think that they have a heart for coaches and for kids and for quality experiences. And then the final thing that I think is an important part of our job, and I've reminded all of our staff of the need to do this, is I think communication is a very important part of that. We have to go out today. This is part of that, communicating with you, getting the message out about what we do and the need to be compliant to our rules. But I think also communication primarily involves listening. And so I really think it's an important part of my job to go out and talk to a lot of different groups. You mentioned your board, and to really listen to the challenges that they're having. And then to try to ensure that everything that we're doing are pointing and empowering those coaches and our athletes towards a pathway for success. And so that's a real quick summary of my background and kind of how I view the job here. But I hope that it adequately describes not just what we do here, but the how of what we're trying to do here.
Well, I think it does. And tip of the hat to you and your team of being good listeners. And y'all have taken a lot of pride in that and done a remarkable job with that. And as coaches, a lot of times we look at UIL as the rule maker or the rule enforcer, but there's so many things that go into that. And y'all are not sitting on your hands. Y'all are continuing looking at options and ideas and ways to help coaches in our mission statement, help kids. And I think we're in a great place right now in the state of Texas with the leadership at UIL and the relationships that you guys have with us and other associations. It's really, truly remarkable. We're very, very lucky and fortunate to have an activity association like UIL in the state of Texas. And we talk about the existence of UIL across the country and about it being the best of the best. And we believe in that, and we advocate that quite a bit. And as we talk about that, we talk about education, we talked about community-based athletics and the importance of that. And in Texas, that's a big deal. Outside of Texas, that's not that much of a way of life. Like it's part of our fabric in the state of Texas and the way that we operate. It's part of our state flag, in my opinion. And so, can you talk about the importance of maintaining the focus on education and community based athletics from the UIL perspective?
Dude, I could probably talk on that all day, Joe. I mean, I think that's really what I'm most passionate about. When I talk to some of my peers and in other states, and I think that's one of the neat things that I get to do in this position is go out and kind of see what it's like in other states. I think if you don't have the ability to do that, you only know kind of what you know. And when I talk to my peers at other states, they're operating not that much differently from a lot of AAU or club environments. A lot of times their coaches are not involved in the school day. They're not a critical part and a daily presence in the lives of their athletes. A lot of the way that their activities function is not that much different than an activity that a parent would sign their kid up in an out of school environment. It's totally out of school situation. And so I think we all in Texas take a lot of pride in that there's a distinct educational component to everything that we do when it comes to athletics here at the UIL. And so our jobs here at the UIL is to help facilitate athletic participation. But it's also to make sure that participation reflects an extension of the classroom, and that again, everything that we do is reinforcing what happens with those kids each and every day. And so I do think that that's important, that we continue to foster that, to ensure that our rules and regulations allow for daily interaction between coaches and kids. I think that having that, again, just quadruple folds the amount of impact that coaches can have with kids. And so I think when we start with an evaluation standpoint, we're always starting with, hey, are we reinforcing the educational component? I think that's important that we continue to do that. You mentioned community-based athletics. Again, I know that our system is imperfect. We're imperfect here at the UIL, but we have some of the most strict community-based rules, residency rules when it comes to participation, especially on the varsity level of any place in the United States. And what that ends up, the end product of that is that we have community-based athletic programs. And so when a school's teams are out there participating, they generally are reflective of kids that live in that community. And when the community feels like that those are their kids, they're going to get out there and they're going to support them. When I talk again, I reference talking to my peers across the nation, when I talk to a lot of them, they say, hey, the attendance at their events have been really lagging. And that's because the only people that come to the game are the parents themselves of those individual kids, because the community is not going to show up, because that activity is not reflective of kids that are actually living and growing up together. That's not the way it is here in Texas. And I think, again, that's why there is so much community pride in what is occurring. And I think that in this day and age, we need to hold on to as many things as possible that are binding people together as communities and as community members, because there's certainly enough out there that's tearing us apart.
No doubt. And to go back and just hit off of the education-based piece, we in Texas, those of us that grew up in this state and on the coast in this state and never travel outside of the state, don't understand the big difference. Your role and my role now, when we deal with our peers outside of the state of Texas and we start talking about an athletic period, we start talking about athletics during the school day, and we start talking about education-based athletics, they look at us like we're crazy. And it's still a major factor in our communities, in our school districts, and in our high schools and middle schools that we have athletic periods. And our coaches are teaching in those schools, and they're touching those, not only just their athletes, but those students. And I think, we believe that our schools are way better off because of that. And our coaches have a huge impact on a daily basis. And as administrators talk about, as athletics being the front porch of their ISD, and as they have great athletic seasons, their school year goes even better. And so it's indicative of why it's so important to have athletic periods from that standpoint, not only the nurturing and the development of athletes that's so important to us in the state of Texas. And then from your community-based standpoint, as we continue to evaluate attendance at championship games across the country and the attendance declining, and you mentioned, some of this outside of the state of Texas, their teams are more like AAU versus our state community-based, education-based athletics. The attendance at those contests, championship contests in other states, are not much different than an AAU contest. And so we're so proud of being able to have our communities behind. We just finished the state football championships and state volleyball championships, and then great crowds. And we're very fortunate to be able to have that, and really appreciate it.
Well, I want to interject there, Joe, on that. There was a recent article with a little bit of hand wringing about our attendance at the last state football championships as being down, and there was a lot of reasons possibly for that. And it's obviously important for us to continue to look at how we can improve that event to cause people to get out and go to it. But whatever our attendance was this year is still 6 to 8 to 10 times the amount of attendance that any other state has at their state football championships. And, when I talk to my peers across the nation, not only do they prize the ability of coaches to work with kids daily, the atmospheres that we have at our contests, but they also talk about the facilities that we have and the resources that are directed towards athletics. And typically, as you well know, those resources are provided by local communities through bond issues because they want to provide the best of the best for their kids. If we start to move away from a community-based approach, I'm afraid that in so many ways, even going back to our facilities, that we might find ourselves without the type of local support that has really made us have the best of the best when it comes to facilities, contest, skill levels, coaches, etc. So I think it's important to consider all of those things.
No doubt about it. And you and I were very fortunate to have spent some time in ISDs that had great facilities, South Fair and Allen. And I would hate to think that it would go the other way because we lost our community-based athletics. So what are some of the biggest threats while we're talking about this? What are some of the biggest threats to community-based athletics? And how does UIL address these challenges, right?
Well, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but I just think today's day and age is a threat itself and the mindset that a lot of people have. I think, Joe, you are part of the interview process when I was hired. And one of the things that I talked about is that when you look around today, that there's a emphasis on individual rights versus collective responsibilities. And I think this the movement that we have in our society is to try to prioritize at all times the ability of individuals to make choices that are in their individual best interest. When you have a system like that, though, collectively, it might not always be in the best interest of the whole, which includes our communities and in a larger point of view, our societies. And so I think when you look at the collegiate level and you look at everything that's happening with all of the individual movement and no continuity when it comes to educational process and kids making a move from year to year to year to chase situations that they feel like are in their individual best interest, I think that the threat of what's happening above us and just here in society in general is the thing that is most dangerous to what we're doing, because I think everybody brings that type of decision making into what their expectation is as far as to their child's experience in interscholastic athletics. When I have talked to all of my peers, there have been several of them that have in their states the ability to have one or even multiple times where you can transfer without any type of harming your varsity eligibility. And they have said that they've had a really negative impact on their abilities to have quality athletic programs. And so again, what's behind that? It's the idea of, hey, we need to be able to have the individual prioritizing that ability to make decisions that they feel like are in their individual best interest. And what's funny about that, again, if you look above us, it would be you'd be hard pressed to say that there's been an emphasis and a value being placed on their total education when you have kids that have transferred from year to year to year with no continuity of instruction. And so that's something I think that's concerning to all of us. And I think that there are ways that we can continue to take care of individuals while we also take care of our what's important to us collectively and emphasize the role of communities and schools. And I hope that we're all going to be doing that as we're making some very important decisions about the future, not only of athletics, but education in general here in Texas.
I agree with you totally. And as we cherish the community-based and education-based athletics, there's those thought processes out there that might impact that. You mentioned some of those states that have those transfer policies. I know our neighboring states to Texas, and I know in Florida, and I know at the collegiate level dealing with the transfer portal, and even in the NFL when a player ends their season on Sunday for the year, but yet is able to transfer and sign with a playoff team the next day, all that becomes a trickle down, and it becomes that individualized thought process. And we're trying to hold that flag of looking at this holistically and what's best for our communities and best for our schools and best for our children, not just my child, but all of our student athletes. And that's what we appreciate you guys so much about.
Well, you also know, and I have to say this, that here within our organization, we really, it's not our role to be taking individual positions about controversial topics or things that might be out there. But I do think it's our job to try to ensure for competitive equity. That's a central part of what we try to do here, and to also point out the possible ramifications of decisions that are being made, and then just to say that those of us that absolutely care the most about interscholastic athletics here in Texas need to obviously to encourage them to stay informed and stay engaged and to really think thoughtfully about decisions that are being made for the future of all school children here in the state of Texas.
Totally agree. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about really maintaining that thought process, but through fair and equitable play. Just making sure that our schools and our teams and our coaches and our sports are playing in an equitable manner, that it's fair. So why is fair play such a fundamental principle for UIL athletics? We talk about it all the time, but can you touch base on that for us?
I think it's the central part of what we're really trying to do. I think all of our rules are set up as in a way to try to level the playing field as much as possible and ensure that there's competitive equity. There's inherently always going to be certain schools, certain situations that have a competitive advantage just because of the resources that they might have in their communities, the infrastructure that's set up for youth sports or whatever the case may be. I think that if you don't have a system, though, that's set up and designed to try to level the playing field as much as possible, I think inherently you lose trust in the system itself. And so, we have, and I think that you've been a big part of this, we have worked really, really hard to engage with our individual coaching associations, to engage with our holistic coaching associations, like your own and THSCA, et cetera, to the Athletic Directors Association, and really to engage in, hey, how can we improve in ensuring that we're keeping a thumb on the scale to ensure that, hey, we have as much competitive equity as possible, and that all kids have a chance at success. There's a lot of diverse opinions, as you well know, about how we can best do that. But I hope that you've seen and your organization has seen that we're really trying to be thoughtful about that. And in a dynamic time with so much change, we're trying to look not just at the present, but the future to ensure that we're staying kind of a little bit ahead of the curve and making sure that for as long as possible, we feel like that all kids have a chance to be successful, no matter where they grow up or what their situation is, that when they step onto a court or a field, that they feel like they have as good a chance as anybody to go out and have competitive success.
In the state of Texas, that's what we talk about as fair and equitable play. And again, hats off to the UIL of that being a fundamental thought process and mission, and have done a really good job. So with that in mind, UIL is the rulemaking body, and then you have to enforce those rules. And so let's talk about ensuring compliance and integrity through rule enforcement. What mechanisms are in place to enforce UIL rules and ensure compliance across the state?
Well, this is probably the area that I think people are most misinformed about. I think that there's a thought process that we have a huge organization here and an investigative arm that has an unlimited number of people that are going to go out and try to get involved with, every situation that might possibly be out there and look into it, fully investigate it, and then hold people accountable if they're not following the rules. Quite honestly, I mentioned the size of our staff. We're a staff, very small staff. We have less people working here at the UIL than I was working with at Cy-Fair in the athletic department there. And we're working with the entire state here. And so one of the best things that I think that our forefathers did here was to set up a system kind of really of local control and oversight. We have our district executive committees, and really they and their own members really work towards holding people accountable to our rules and our rule processes. We do get involved, we do prompt and kind of stand alongside of district executive committees as a first line of defense when there are reports or allegations of rule breaking or non-compliance. But we really depend on a lot of local governance and control to adjudicate the rules, not just for themselves, but really for the integrity of the system. And so, again, where I think there's a little bit of a misnomer is that all of that's controlled here out of Austin. And quite honestly, the way that we really enforce the rules are by those that are competing against each other. The system is designed for us to hold each other accountable to the rules that everybody clearly understands. And we do assist with that. We do help with it, but we depend on the integrity and of the compliant and everyone that's involved in the process holding each other accountable, but also holding themselves accountable to the rules.
Something that we have as an association for a number of years and preached ethics and integrity and that can't go out and investigate everything that is out there. And it's up to our coaches, it's up to our athletic administrators and our school administrators and to our parents of making sure that we're in compliance and that we're following those rules. And very proud of the job that our coaches do across the state of Texas. We do have some of those that tend to try to live in that gray area and get themselves in trouble at times. And we have some coaches that have done a great job of standing up and saying that's not the way we need to act in the state of Texas. And it ends up coming to a DEC or an SEC meeting. And I really applaud our coaches for being able to handle that. So there's rules enforcement, but there's education in those rules too, Ray. UIL does a great job of educating our coaches and athletic directors. Can you share with our audience the resources that are available to help our coaches, athletic directors, parents understand and follow our UIL guidelines?
Yeah, we have a lot that's out there, and I think that probably when it comes to the general public, I would suggest that they get really familiar with our website. We've got a lot of great material there on the website that fully explains everything from the eligibility rules, access to playing rules, etc. I think that's a great resource, not just for the general public, but for our coaches as well. I hope that you've seen we've really tried to be super thoughtful on how we better educate our coaches. We've revamped our coaches certification program process to really try to make that more engaging, to really concentrate in the areas where there seems to be most misunderstanding about the rules and that process. And so I think that we have shown great flexibility there and have really revamped that process over the last 2 years. We've taken a heavy look at our sports manuals. We really redid our sports manuals this year. We've made them a little bit more accessible to however people like to work. We used to have the old PDFs that you would use, and a previous administration, rightly so, decided to modernize and make it web-based, which was important. But what we found is some of us that were more seasoned like the PDFs, and so we said, why don't we have both? And so we've tried to meet people where they are with how we present information. One of the things that I would point out to all coaches, and I think that this is important, like very important, if you aspire to be a head coach, you aspire to be an athletic administrator, you need to understand the rules and you need to understand how to adjudicate the rules. And I think the two best resources that I would point to are the TEA UIL side-by-side resource, and then also the individual sport manual that you have for the sports that you're coaching in. I always recommended to our coaches there at Cy-Fair that they read both of those, no matter their position, on a yearly basis, and just getting those active reps. I know, again, as an athletic director there in Cy-Fair with 32 secondary schools, I was in the side-by-side. Even after 30 years of experience, on a weekly basis. And I am still today as the athletic director of the UIL. And so between the UIL side, TEA side by side, the sports manual, our website, and then also our staff. Again, we've tried to really get out and be visible and to think of new ways of communicating. And this is part of it, right? Even having a podcast where we're jumping on here trying to talk about how to better understand the rules. We're trying to be as creative as we possibly can. And I would just say this in conclusion, if any coaches or anyone else out there has any better ideas of how we could create greater understanding, shoot, we're ready to listen to that and ready to be adaptable, because I think we need to meet some very busy people where they are. Our coaches have a lot going on when it comes to teaching class, having their families, taking care of their sports and their responsibilities. We need to make these rules as consumable as possible.
I totally agree, and I think it's a really good thought for young coaches to understand how to get to CCP and CCR. How do you access that? Can you expand on that just a little bit to our younger coaches that probably some out there listening to that don't even know what we're talking about or how to go to it and find it and access it?
Yeah, again, number one thing that I would, and I'm going to give you the same speech that I gave my coaches back at Sci-Fair, I would bookmark the UIL website. And I think once you get in with to that website, I would go through and I would just do a search for the UIL TEA side by side. We typically would recommend that somebody bookmark that and put that on there, copy that onto their desktop for easy access. I also again think that accessing the sport manual directly through the website and interacting with that in whatever way that you see fit, whether that's downloading the PDF, whether that's printing out the PDF, or whether that's using the web-based version and kind of going section by section, a little bit at a time. I would suggest that that's the best way of doing this. But you can't ever aspire to be a head coach if you don't quite understand those rules. And I think the sooner that you get that understanding, not only are you going to put yourself in a position to be a successful head coach in the future, but you're also going to make yourself a much more valuable assistant coach to your head coach, because you're going to have an understanding of the rules and how to best help your head coach run a compliant program.
And I would add that as you jump into either one of those documents or all of those documents, not to be afraid to, number one, go to your head coach or have a mentor to ask about, but pick up the phone and call UIL staff too, because they're open to everything. And if you don't understand what you're reading and understand what a rule means, it's a lot easier to pick up the phone and call and ask what this is about versus being on the other side of that and trying to figure out what's the next step once you got in trouble. So
we're here, towards your point, we're here to help. And I joke all the time that I think that half the state of Texas has my cell phone number. And so, we do that, and we're very intentional in giving out and being accessible to our coaches and to our athletic administrators, because, we are here to help. Number one thing that we can do is provide information and resources so that we're then empowering folks to go out and be the best that they can be. I think that's important.
Yeah, and their goal every day is not to catch a coach doing something wrong. It's to help a coach do something right. And their access is remarkable. So be able to use it. From a young coach's perspective, I think that's really important. So in wrapping this up, Ray, just some final thoughts or last question for you, and then add anything else you want to add to this as we close this session out. But how can community members stay involved and contribute to the success of the UIL and UIL programs?
I think the number one thing that if I could say to anybody that just loves high school sports or interscholastic sports here in the state of Texas, best thing that they could do is absolutely buy into investing into their local schools and into their athletic programs. Schools need people that can volunteer, that can help provide resources and support. And when you do that and you're engaged on a daily basis or weekly basis, or just as you can be on a monthly basis here and there, you also hear the challenges that coaches are going through, athletic administrators are having. You're staying engaged into the larger discussion about not just interscholastic athletics, but education, public education here in the state of Texas. We probably have one of the largest percentages of overall numbers of students that attend public schools per capita here in the state of Texas. And so stay engaged to the issues that really impact education and public education. in athletics in general. I think the more that they can engage with their local programs, that they can listen and stay educated on what's happening bigger picture with public education in general, I think that they're going to be well positioned to provide the UIL with the best support possible. Because again, the only reason that we exist is to help local schools and to help programs. So in helping their own community-based program, they're definitely helping us.
No doubt about it. And great wisdom and great words in closing this out. I just, again, want to thank you and your staff for the job that you guys do on a daily basis. Congratulations on the state championships from the fall, and looking forward to starting some of those up in the spring. And hopefully you guys got a day or two of rest. And here we go again. The second semester is upon us, and you guys put on great events and take a lot of pride in those. And we appreciate all your efforts. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to turn this back over to Chris.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ray, for all the great information, and Joe for your deft handling of some great questions. And I tell you, I think this is going to be another one of these shows that people are going to keep on their phone all the time to refer back to. It's such good stuff. Thank you both.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Ray.
Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You do it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Doelle, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call. The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com.